You're tuning into the Journey to Your Best Self podcast, where we explore the past holistic well-being, personal growth, and living a fulfilling life. Each episode, we bring you insightful conversations, practical tools, and inspiring stories to help you integrate your mind, body, and spirit on your journey to becoming your best self. Let's dive in and embark on this journey together. And welcome back to the Journey to Your Best Self podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian O'Neill, and I'm joined by my sister and co-host, Tara O'Neill, certified life coach, hypnotherapist, and yoga instructor. Today, we're absolutely thrilled to have with us Amanda Curry on the show. Amanda is a trauma-informed doctor of physical therapy, a master facilitator and training camp for the soul, which we'll learn more about. She's also a breathwork facilitator and an inner child and reparenting coach. Amanda's passionate about helping parents, especially moms, manage their emotions and show up more fully in their lives and in their relationships with their children. In her practice, Amanda guides clients through somatic tools like breathwork and inner child reparenting, helping them uncover limiting beliefs and finding balance amidst life's challenges. We're excited to dive into her journey and explore the powerful work she does in supporting emotional well-being, self-discovery, and transformation. Without any further ado, Amanda, welcome aboard.
Hello, and thank you for giving your introduction, because I will be honest, I would have probably dropped like your partner, your spouse. So I'm glad that we have differentiated that Tara is your sister. I learned that early on in my physical therapy days, that you never assume, you always ask. And so I would have hoped that that would have carried on to this podcast, but I just don't know. So thank you for saving me from myself.
Yeah, we appreciate you recognizing that. Yeah, there was one awkward interview that someone said, "Oh, I have this great recommendation for you and your guys' children, so you can work with them after we talk on something." And I was like, "Okay, we could definitely do that." And when
fun.
I am with my wife after this interview, I'll tell her about that recommendation.
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah,
hilarious.
it's good.
Yeah.
Who's I guess we could be like a case study on how siblings can kind of reconnect later on in life.
It would
You
just be a
have, I guess,
cool like social experiment too. It's like, how many
seriously.
people that we interview assume that you guys are together?
That's
And I'm
true.
from Alabama, so I can make the like joke of like sister brother. So
Mm.
I can hit all sides of it. It's I'm fine with it.
And us being from New Jersey, we can make a joke out of anything. So, like, we never take anything personally.
Yes,
so it's
yes,
fine.
yeah, awesome.
So yeah, love it.
Good.
Thanks so much
I was
for being on.
thinking that you could go also in the direction of how traumas or experiences from childhood that are shared experiences can affect people differently,
1,000%.
right? And it is interesting how a lot of times when we talk casually about things in the past, we have it framed in a different way and we reacted totally different to it. One of my first questions is, why the focus on moms? Is it that they are so critical in the family unit? Is it that they have to deal with the traumas and the different emotions in a certain way and then still be there for their children? Why specifically moms do you feel kind of drawn to helping out?
I mean, on a selfish level, it started out as like, no one was there for me. Where were these facilitators that were like me, going through the things that I was going through, but then also wanted to do the deep work, right? But I actually there was a mother wound, mother healing summit that's going on right now. And my mentor is actually a part of it, but what I'm deeming one of my future mentors, Amber Hawkins, was on there, and she was talking about this, a lot of things to do with the mother wound, but she also really beautifully painted this picture of the way that our society is not based. It is very patriarchal. That's where a lot of our dysfunction is coming from, and that women in a patriarchal society, moms, when you're trying to do it all and be the mom, that is absolutely a recipe for disaster, of extra stress, of maybe little t trauma on top of all of the things that you could have experienced as a child. And so it's this, I have, as my own journey has unfolded and as I've held more and more women, I'm realizing that like we are this like silent epidemic of just stuck individuals that so much is asked of us and we haven't been given the tools, and yet so much depends on us. And it's just one of these new kind of passions that are continuing to evolve, of really seeing the forest for the trees, of like, it's not just about healing myself, it's about how is this going to affect my lineage, and really the impact that it can make on our culture and our society as a whole. And that sounds very like flowery and utopian, but I'm now realizing that it's not just about the woman or the mom that's in front of me. It's what their work is going to do for for everyone around them, for everyone that they come in contact with. So yeah, it's definitely blossomed very recently into, oh, I'm seeing the ripples now. I'm seeing that butterfly effect.
Wow. Well, great.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, go ahead, Tara.
This is right up my
It
alley.
is.
I get really excited about healing ancestral trauma and the inner work. So how did you get into the inner child healing and the reparenting, coming from a more Western medical background? Was it your personal, and how do you incorporate that? I don't want to ask like 8 questions in one, but did you find resistance in your transition or struggle with people maybe not wanting to go that deep once you had?
Yeah. So I can hit all of this. Thank you for doing the multi-question ask, because that's me too. So yeah, I'll touch on something called the 5 personality patterns throughout this, probably because it is so ingrained in how I support women, but also the language that I speak about myself. And so and you can look that up, Stephen Kessler. It's an incredible book, incredible resource. And so yes, my Western medicine, the way that I learned, the way that I was operating in the world, was very much, masculine, and very much A plus B equals C. There has been research, and there has been, studied proof, and this is the way, and blah, blah, blah. And what I was finding is that, although that was really aiding in my external career success, internally, I was like, mathing is not mathing right now. Like, I have read all of the books. I have gone to all of the therapists. I have done all of the personal development things. I've been a part of, influential multi-level marketing company. I mean, I had done it all. And because of my personality, I had done it to the nth degree. I knew without a shadow of a doubt, I was someone that was coachable. Like, I was doing the thing. And so I was still crumbling inside, and I was just really frustrated by like, why there's something that I'm missing. And I talk about this a lot, that, heeding my intuition, even though I didn't really know what that really was at the time, just said, keep going. There's something else out there. And I was deep into CrossFit culture, and was scrolling, of all things, a CrossFit podcast platform. And my now mentor came up as one of the people that was like talking about this mother learning thing and this inner child healing thing. And I was like, I'm sorry, I just went from like carb cycling to like barbell work to what is this? And so I was walking down the street, listened to it. And I remember where I was, stopping and listening to that and being like, where has this been? And that was in 2019. So not that long ago, but no one in all of the time of my therapy had ever talked about that. And so that was really where all of my learning got flipped flipped upside down. And I don't necessarily know that I think people started to see a change in me enough that they didn't really nothing need to be proven as to like how this works. And in relation to using breathwork and how it is utilized with, my current patients on like that bucket of physical therapy. I mean, we all know, like, I think that you can get people in the door of knowing that breath work or using your breath or controlling your breath, that's still accepted in kind of this Western realm. They just don't know all of the extra stuff that may come with it. And so I actually don't know that there's been a lot of resistance in the form of like, you shouldn't do that, you can't do that, that doesn't work. I think it's more it's been able to be really seamlessly separated because I'm not doing the active inner child work with my PT patients. And so that split has been able to be like, okay, these are the section of people that I'm supporting in this way, and these are the section of people that I'm supporting in this way. And so it's, for me, it's worked out really, really flawlessly. And I've been thankful for that.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you for bringing that work into the more traditional setting. With breath work, our listeners are a little bit familiar with pranayama. Can you explain the type that you use? Is it a holotropic? Is it a transformational?
Yeah. So there's over 200 types of breath work. Your viewers probably, or listeners probably already know that. And this is really just a 2-part active pranayama breath, more of a heart opening breath. Have my level 1 certification with David Elliott. And I am one of those purists where when I find something that works for me, I just stick with that. And so I had experienced a lot of different types of breath. I've done holotropic breath. I've done a lot of other things. And not that I haven't had really powerful experiences with that, but this breath work just fell in my lap in my integration phase of my journey. And it really resonated with me, I think, because my teacher paired a certain type of music with it that really, really lended itself to like breaking me open as someone that runs more of a rigid pattern. And yeah, that's what I stuck with. And that's what I felt really called to bring out into the world in my own way. But that is really the style of it. I've had people that are breathwork facilitators do the type of breath that I facilitate in the way that I facilitate it. And I think that with the right type of person, a lot of people can have holotropic type experiences without utilizing that type of breath. So that's what I also think is so beautiful, is that each person's experience can be so different. So yeah, definitely heart opening, definitely 2-part.
Yeah. Can you give an example of some of the benefits that someone might experience when they do that type of breath work? How long does it take? And that it is a little bit more gentle than a Stan Groff type of a breath work, in that it is heart opening.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say that the way that I facilitate breath work, because I am a part of communities in Memphis where I will go do this type of breath work in a certain way, more traditional to how it's taught, where it's literally you're doing that breath the entire time. I love that. That is something that I feel very comfortable with, that is very supportive for me. But I had this intuitive nudge to take that breath and make it the kind of the icing on the cupcake, but allowing people to experience traditional, just like box breathing, ocean breath, triangle breath as like your ooey gooey cupcake, because so many people have never been introduced to this work. They have no idea what it's like to be blown out of their body or be grounded in their body. And so what I have found is the type of person that I really feel called to support is one that's just getting into their breathwork journey. And I think that is really supportive for them. And for a lot of them, it is down regulating. It's just helping to like prime the nervous system for something other than chaos and anxiety. And for some people, it really connects them to their heart and things that they have been stuffing down. I know we may get to this in a minute, but for me, being in my head all the time, I was very disconnected from my heart and from my intuition. And I had a lot of anger and a lot of frustration. And so this was a way that in those later stages of getting into that 2-part active breath, you really can't help, once you've surrendered to the breath, but to let whatever is there to flow up and out. And so that's another more significant benefit that you can get from it. But yeah, I mean, we could do a whole podcast on the benefits of it, but really just for the people that I support and my own journey, those have been the top things that I would say have been really why I go to breath and why I suggest it to others.
That's great. I just read a quote. It said something like the most economical resource for calming your nervous system is right under your nose. And so in the sense where, if you learn the tools of how to breathe, it's free. So I love that. So would you say that it's accessible to most people, right? The breathing.
You're breathing right now, right?
Yeah.
And I think that the big thing about breath work is that so much of And I think we are somewhat shifting, but so much of this somatic work, coaching work, therapy work, healing work is we're in this like again like colonialistic there's an authority and you have to learn from them. And so breathwork is one of those things where like you did the thing. You had to do the breathing, the things that you feel is your energy, your life force. It's not me imparting that onto you. And so that's what I really think that for people that tend to feel disempowered or to feel lost or distrusting of their own, power, autonomy, agency, it's like you just did that, not me, you. And so I really love that that has been a part of really supporting people on their journey too. Is like, oh damn, like yeah, I can do that, I can feel that, that's totally of me, and I can access that at any time.
Yeah.
You mentioned CrossFit. How can breathwork help, even if not directly, just kind of being more cognizant of the importance of breathing and appreciating it and being more mindful of it with gains and with running? How can it help
Oh,
in the
I mean,
gym?
yeah. So like we have a guy in town. I'll totally just give him a shout out because I think they do incredible work. Taylor Somerville, and he focuses with Symmetry Live on more of the performance based work. As a physical therapist, can I teach that? Yes. As a breathwork facilitator, could I do that? Yes. But that does not get my juices flowing, right? We know that with like, you know, hyper oxygenation through breath work and through breath holds, that you can 100% increase your capacity with a variety of things, whether it is barbell cycling or whether it is, resistance training or long distance triathlons or runs or whatever it may be. I find that what's really hilarious is these athletes that come, whether they're younger, older, like weekend warriors, whatever they may be. So many of them come in, I want to perform better. I'm at this age and I feel like I need that extra edge. And I love where, again, the icing on the cake, where they're like, oh, but this has transformed so much else of my life apart from just like my performance. Like I'm no longer as anxious for races or runs, or I feel like I can manage my jitters better, or I'm using this in, my corporate job. And that's, I think, where it's like we put the line out and we're like, okay, and then they catch on and they're like, oh, I get it now. And so yeah, I mean, there's so many benefits from a biomechanical standpoint and from an endurance and cardiovascular standpoint. But I really love the kind of what is it, bait and catch and bait. What is that? I'm
Bait and
terrible.
switch.
In switch.
Bait and switch.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bait and switch. Anyways,
I
yeah.
always, I always say, well, with hypnosis and a lot of subconscious work, people never come in for what they actually want to come in
Right.
for, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
it is. It's like you tell them what they want to hear and you give them what they need, type of a thing,
Yes.
in the
Absolutely.
sense of they're coming in for a symptom, but they're getting so much more in the.
Yes. Absolutely. 100%.
And that's where a lot of people do start. A lot of men do start. I mean, now things are changing, but a lot of times they'll come in for performance, and then their spouse will call and be like, "Thank you so much," right?
Yeah.
Like he's so much calmer, or whatever it might be. So these are however they get to you, right, or however they get to start doing the inner work.
Yeah.
So can you talk about the inner child and probably how that could sometimes bring things up in terms of breath, or if that's something separate that you work on? And also with the inner child, the reparenting, right? So many of us know about the inner child and how it's important, but that it's actually not just a one-time thing that you just meet your inner child and you're done.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
can you speak to some of that and take your time, no order, and if you forget it,
Yeah. Yeah. I do love, because, with everything, just like breath work, there's a lot of different varieties of inner child work. And so something that I really like to share is the perspective that this is more than just like Lisa Frank stationery and what was your favorite Teletubby and, pictures of yourself and writing yourself a letter and all of that. Like this goes way beyond that. And the fact that there was a child there in, 20, 30, however old you are, 40 years ago. But there also is an inner child that lives within you every single day. And that inner child is continuing to play out these cyclical patterns that they learned all those years ago that worked for them then, but now may not be serving them. And so really your inner child is the encompassing of any emotions, whether that's frustration, grief, sadness, but also, happiness, joy, even, I mean, this is a little bit of an odd thing to think of, but even turn on, even excitement, in any of that. And so your ability to see parts of yourself, and parts of your emotion and how you show up day to day as a data point for what your inner child may be experiencing is a really powerful thing. Because in a way, even though your inner child is yourself, it almost creates just that little bit of separation that allows your nervous system, or at least your cognitive mind, to relax in the fact that, like, oh, I can tend to something and check in with something instead of it feeling like this tidal wave of all of me feels this way, right? I think that that's really where some of this parts work also gets to come in. And really, again, I I love to just play the inner child work with the breath work back and forth, because we can have somebody that has no awareness of inner child work but comes in for breath work, and you can allow them to piece together, oh, the sensations you were feeling were also tied to emotions which your inner child is experiencing. So get curious about that. Like, when else is that showing up in your life? What could your inner child be telling you? Or what is this part telling you that is actually your inner child? And then the same thing for people that come directly for, like, I need inner child work. Okay, well, accessing your inner child can happen a variety of ways, some through breath work, some through just visualization, some of the tools that you likely use. And so it gets to be both. I love that phrase. And I think that they get to play equally with each other. And depending on the client, some people may have a hard time, like myself, accessing their heart. So breathwork is a way to further the development of accessing and reconnecting with their inner child. Because it's not just about, I'm connecting. I did a reel on this a while ago of, like, all the types of inner child that can show up, because my inner child, little Amanda, was like, first would not even turn around and look at me at first, then basically was looking at me with, like, dragon lady eyes, and, like, I mean, might as well have the double bird up, like, just did not want anything to do with me. And so it's a process. They are getting to know you and to trust you as someone that's going to take care of them and isn't going to judge them, abandon them, expect things of them, push them past their limits, whatever it may be. And so really, I really love that, even in a time where maybe there is a little bit of resistance with your inner child, or you're meeting and bumping up against some really edgy topics or learned behaviors or beliefs, that you can then, again, pair breath work to get over that hump, to really get out of your head and into your body, and, like, the truth, your essence, your core, that your inner child is ultimately being like, hey, it's right here. The answer's right here. But we're just, making it super complex.
Yeah, no, that's so wonderful. I love it. I'm so excited, because it can be a tough topic, but it can also be so freeing in so many ways, and open up so many
Yeah.
opportunities, and really, like, integrate you the subconscious, the unconscious. It's funny that you said that about the inner child, because the first time, and I had been doing work for a while, like the inner work, and then I met an somatic attachment healer, and it was just a basic visualization, and my inner child, like, I thought I was a pretty nice kid, and she was, like, really tough, and she was like,
Yeah.
oh, what do you want, like, now you decide to show up? And I was like, oh my goodness,
1,000%.
what's happening?
1,000%. Yeah.
So it is nice to also talk about that it's not like rainbows and butterflies frolicking through the grass per se in the beginning,
Yes.
so it can be a process, maybe some people, and that's great, but it can also be a process, because we're always protecting ourselves, right? We're always, and we're pushing things down to disconnect from the body. So I love when you say that about the breath work, because if you go, like, you can't, like, stop in the middle, right? So you do go to that edge, or you surpass that edge that your conscious mind sometimes wants to shut down. And so, like you said, we are so shielded very often with our heart, and
Yes.
we can't just close our minds and be like, I'm opening my heart. I mean, we can
Right.
try maybe temporarily, But ultimately, like there's so many layers that could possibly be there.
1,000%. I agree with all
That's
of it.
amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So how about children? How can we get it so that they start loving their own self and don't maybe have to do this in 40 years?
Do it for yourself first. Like I cannot tell you how many moms are like, I'm messing up my kids. They're learning all these things. I can't cry in front of them. And I'm like, all they need is for you to model to them the thing and to stop feeding them the line, but not being energetically aligned with what you're saying. Your children, more often than not, call bullshit on what you're telling them, right? Because I said so. But yet you're like afraid, like, am I really doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Or you can do anything you want, babe. But they're like fearful for you to do anything that you want, or they're fearful for themselves to do anything that they want. And so I really think that we moms, I'm going to just say it because I'm a mom, we love the distractor. I don't want to do my own work. I don't want to feel the thing. So what am I going to do? I'm going to turn that and project that onto worry about my kid. Dude, no. Absolutely not. Turn it right back around, because you are probably having more of those issues than your child is. You're worried about your child being super anxious. What about you? It's like apple tree. And it really is a reflector for them. It's the same thing when people come in and it's like, I'm really struggling with my partner. I need them to be this. Okay, so take a look in the mirror, you know? And I really think that, especially moms, again, when we go back to that initial point that I made earlier of like the patriarchal society and like how we're really expected to rush and to do and to achieve and to get all of things done for everybody, it really hardens us. And it's like there's work and we have to do it. And we have to go, and like there's no time for play and fun and whatever. And so I really believe that inner child work and breath work softens you. It accesses you more to your heart, which allows you to be the parent that you want to be, that you've always envisioned yourself to be, but that you have this energetic block against. And so I really encourage moms to almost reverse engineer whatever it is that you're wanting. Can you ask that and provide that for yourself first? Because your agitation and judgment and frustration with your children is in direct attachment to your level of self frustration and, judgment and all of the things. And so, yeah, it's not always easy, but it is definitely more simple than we make it out to be.
So how about, you said a couple times a patriarchal society. So how about, say 30, 40, you're talking about, decades ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Much less women were working, right, in the workplace. There were
Mm-hmm.
many more women staying at home. Now there's so many. So how does the fact that they're now really expected to be part of the full-time workforce kind of affect exacerbate this situation even more, because now they have to have a career and and still be expected to parent as well, and not have all this need for Amanda Curry, right? Because they have even more responsibilities put on them by society.
Yeah, I mean, that's 100% what I was highlighting earlier. And I also want to make a little bit of a caveat, because I think that this patriarchal, that type of verbiage is also getting this very, some people are misinterpreting as this like ultra feminist or like basically man hating. And that's not at all what I want to have be felt in that statement. The patriarchal more society is like the expectation, and it's even if we hadn't, even if basically the industrial revolution hadn't happened and we stayed as like June Cleaver and all of that maintained that kind of monochromatic type lifestyle, our society as a whole is still run and structured as more of like that patriarchal doing, action, efficiency. And so again, we could still be homemakers at home, even though, I mean, June Cleaver probably had her own issues. But it's the society as a whole. Any society that isn't centered around the mother or a matriarchal, it is going to siphon into more of that like achievement, doing, pushing, that kind of thing. And so that's really what I want to highlight, is that whether a mom is at work outside the home, or that their main, source of their support or supporting their family is at home, there is still that vibe of like, got to sign up for all the things, got to have it all done, got to make sure that everybody's, equal and the same. And we got to make sure that everything's done on time, and that we still make sure that everybody else is taken care of instead of ourselves. And so it's really just that energy of the masculine, like doing, pushing, like achieving, that's really sending really women over the edge, because they're like, I can't be it all. And what we're finding is that it's almost as if, and I'm, again, these are examples, and I love my husband and I love men. So I'm not trying to hate on it. It's more the energy of it is, in that type of demand, we all become the same, and we all kind of become the hardened, structured, I'm just holding the bucket. I'm just holding it all, and I'm doing it and making sure it's all getting done. But then, if the feminine is that energy within the bucket, there's nothing left. It's just an empty, dry bucket. And children can't necessarily, nobody really can thrive in that. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't have any necessarily answers to that. But I do feel like that the work that I have experienced and that I'm putting out into the world and helping other women with are bringing them back to their center of what they actually want, and being able to decipher for their own families, how do they bring that out into the world? I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah.
But
I have to interject before Brian has a follow-up, because I'm super passionate about this, and the way that I think of it as well is the masculine, right? And there's so much masculine, and with the nervous system, the go, go, go energy is not really allowing the feminine to drop into her body, to connect with her intuition, to live in a flow state. And so I think you do have the answer, in that you are bringing that back. And I love when you said, like, we're almost like hardening, where it's like we're neutral. And I'm thinking of like water is like more feminine, and like rock as masculine. And so it's also,
and
like,
it's needed though,
the
right?
relationships.
Yeah, it's needed. So it's not to hate on the masculine, but like,
Yeah.
if you have a big bowl of water, you don't want this like mushy, crack-filled container. You want something that's strong AF, right? But what's happening is that it's permeating all of the people in society. And you just alluded to it before I cut you off. I apologize. It's affecting our relationships. So when both parties are doing that, then it's like there's no connection. Like we're just up against each other.
Right.
And I am passionate about that, because I mean, you guys you're listening to this and maybe watching this, but like I tend to gravitate more towards the masculine energy. So this is something that I've had to face again and again and again head on, of like, how can I soften? How can I be in my feminine? How can I like sit back? How can I be held? How can I, and it's just a product of who I am, what I learned, and also what culture has rewarded me with.
Yeah. And I love the message to me that you're sending out, is that you can have both and be successful in that.
Yes.
And, that could be our third podcast. We could talk about the relationships and how to bring that chemistry back too. I think that's the thing, is relationships are not flourishing. They're not, because there's not the polarization. There's the yin and the yang need to be yin and yang, for lack of a better way to describe it. So yeah, I do think that we're getting there, but just constantly almost like informing people and having them experience it too. That's what I love about breathwork. They could feel it, right? So once people feel it, forget about the literature and the research studies. It's like, oh, I felt something.
Yeah. And I am is this a PG podcast? Like what are the language barriers that I have?
We could always edit it out.
Well, this is what I normally call myself, is I'm an integration whore. So like, I am someone that like, I'm all about the feel good. I'm all about the feminine, but also every single one of my breathwork circles ends with, how are you going to take what you now know to be true or feel in this moment out into the world? Because it is about the feel good. Of course, we all want that. But then it's like, there is a lot of space there for people to lean into taking it out and translating it into the here and now, because it's, what are we doing? Like, we can move the train from one set of train tracks to the other, but if it's still at the station, what are we doing? So I love that you bring that up, because it gets to be both. This is a new theme of our podcast tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the same thing with yoga, I find. And I've been guilty of this, is, rushing to yoga, like running in to like lay on my mat, and I do practice taking it throughout the day. But, in the West, and we've talked about this a lot on our podcast, there are people that will get up, meditate for 20 minutes and kind of be an ass the rest of the day. So it is that integration that we do need to work on. I think, people are more accepting of the shadow to an extent, but not quite there yet.
Yeah. I love it.
One thing that we notice, or I do, is that a lot of the people that are kind of really investigating or confronting the inner child or searching for it, like that kind of Gen Z, maybe older millennial group, there's a lot, so that begs the question, like, what were these boomer parents like doing? What the hell were they doing?
Obeying.
Like, seriously.
Obeying, Brian. They were obeying.
Right, but was it ignorance? Was it lack of resources? To blame in many ways, right, for the inner children, like for the challenges and issues that the people that are looking to heal face, right? I mean, it's not solely on them, but they had this great effect on their kids. It doesn't matter. Does it even matter why they were parenting in a way that did not lead to sustainable balance and happiness in their children long term? Or is there something there? If we can figure, I mean, you can anecdotally collect data from people that you work with, and if you find out, oh, this is fascinating, this is why a lot of they thought, everyone read, Dr. Spock's book or something, or they just didn't know any better. Does it matter why the mistakes were made or what the mistakes were? And how can we maybe find out and then not repeat history?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, and this is something that I basically tell everyone either on their first call or our connection call, is your parents are no longer on trial, right? So like in inner child work, the way that I teach it, they're off the hook. I mean, like, we are going to process, but you are doing the reparenting. They are not doing the reparenting. And you and your ability to heal is solely on you. You're an adult. Like, radical responsibility, radical ownership gets to take like the forefront of your life if you're ready for it. And honestly, I can tell you from what I have read and what I've heard, and just what makes sense to me too, is, again, like, I sound like a boomer saying this, but it was a different time. So when you have boomers that had parents that had been through the Great Depression and World War II, if I heard those stories, I would be like, yeah, of course they're talking to me this way. Of course, this is what is being laid out as expected, that you're going to work hard. You're going to save everything, because we don't know, when the other shoe's going to drop, or we don't know when, again, there's another world war. And so what's interesting is that, yes, we've been through 9/11 and we've been through all the atrocities in the last 20 to 30 years that we've all been a part of. But it's been processed differently. And so it hasn't been just locked in. And we are now a society where when we're just more connected, but in different ways. And so I think that the way that boomers parented is just the only thing that they knew. And of course, the only thing that they knew was what they knew, because their parents experienced what they experienced. And, maybe it's not the Great Depression, and maybe it's not, Nazis and, world wars, but like, we also are traversing, I don't want to say just as critical things, but, school shootings and a lot of the things that have become our normal are, in essence, could be just as damaging, just as impactful as world wars and other things. But I think that the age of technology has connected us to where we no longer feel like we are the only one experiencing that. And when we see other people thrive, or we see other people break barriers in what they've experienced and now who they are, we want that. And so I think that's where we've gotten this, if you can do it, I can too. And it's really spurred on more questions about like, what does actually work for me? What did I learn that it's no longer serving me? And yeah, that's really what I would sum up as potentially a reason why, but I really do think it is the reason why. And really just putting back the responsibility on us as the generations that we are, and that we're no longer children. We get to do this work, not we have to.
Yeah.
Nice.
One follow-up to that, what about the other end of the spectrum, where the generation where we over coddled our children and we did everything for them, but yet they're still having anxiety as well? So have our nervous systems become more resilient? Have they strengthened? Have they evolved? Or are we just numbing them down in different ways?
That is an incredible follow-up question. And I just did a talk this week on the book, The Anxious Generation, with another counselor in town that supports young adolescent boys and their parents. And what's so interesting is that the opposite coin of all of the information, all of the connection is exactly what you said, is that now we know too much. And now we have flipped to this, I am going to wake up and I am going to experience some sort of natural disaster that may not even be a part of what, my area experiences, or, I am going to be abducted, or I am going to be witness to a school shooting. And again, not to negate any of those experiences, but we have been inundated with things that don't serve our nervous system, and we are inundated with it. What was the stat or the thing that basically we get as much information in one day as those 100 years ago got in a year? And your nervous system, though we are evolved and though we have done so much in the last 400 million years, our nervous systems can't catch up to that. Like it's not correlative, like where it's like, oh, well, we've grown so much in this area that now our nervous system has this capacity. It doesn't. And so we're basically burning ourselves out over and over and over again. And with really, really full energetic tanks, we have nothing but to feed into the stories and the beliefs that are being created in our mind. And so, yeah, we are in this generation of teetering in this like overprotection, where the book says that like basically like ER visits and broken bones have gone down by like 80% from what it was 20 years ago. And yeah, the intention is good. But the thing that we talked about with the parents at the panel this week was like, again, what you said earlier about, we were talking about kids and how moms come and, well, how do I do this? Let's not talk about the worry of your child. Let's talk about the worry that is within you. Let's not talk about the possibility. Let's talk about what's happening to your own nervous system when you think about your kid driving down the road or walking to the park or whatever it may be. And I really think, again, it comes back to us as parents, us as the adults, really taking a magnifying glass as to what's happening underneath the hood, like what's happening underneath those layers, and really what is, how is our nervous system being stimulated day to day?
Yeah, absolutely. Because while we can cognitively say things are better, our reptilian brain is the same ultimately.
Yes.
And so that's such a great distinction that you made, and thank you for answering that. What could you recommend a book? We always ask our guests what are one of their favorite everyone should read at some point on their journey.
I'm going to die on this hill. I want to say that mad respect for strength finders, score builders, Enneagram, blah, 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 all the labels, like anxious attachment, blah, blah. Stephen Kessler's 5 personality patterns is by far, in my opinion, the most transformational and supportive. It's not even a label. It's not a typology. It is what is your stress response? And what I love about it is that everyone's stress response is there 5. There is gifts to it. I know that Enneagram and other things highlight this, but there are gifts to it when you are in presence. and there are the shadow to it. But what I love is that you get to start to integrate in as you do healing work and as you learn how to be more present and regulated and supported, that really you just live in the gifts, right? And so Stephen Kessler, bar none, the 5 personality patterns, it has helped me in my own journey, but also to understand coworkers, families, and friends. And not just like I understand why you're doing that, but it allows you to give empathy and maybe even support somebody that you notice is in pattern, may be dysregulated. And what is the need there? So rigid. What is the need when I'm dysregulated and I'm flying off the handle? Do you need to go and like write down some things that are on your mind that are creating this dysfunction where you're snappy because you can't think of the thing that you're trying to recall? Or do you need everybody to give you a minute so that like you can be with yourself so you're not rage cleaning, right? And I think that it's more of like a there's an essence of empowerment with it. And that's I really, yes, that's the book. Short answer, long answer, the whole answer. That's the book.
I love it. I haven't read it. I'm a little bit familiar, but yeah, I agree. It's also, it gives permission for you to respond a certain way, and also for those around you that you care about. Do you know what your human design is? I know that's kind of like a shift.
Oh my gosh.
Wait,
I
can I
do
guess?
know some of it. I have in our container that I help, the certification program that I'm a part of with TCS. Jamie is incredible. And she is my like go-to human design person. So I'm, of course, you probably imagine a manifesting generator.
I
Yes,
said it.
yes.
I said, my brother, we were talking before, and I was like, oh my God, this woman's just like me.
Yeah.
I feel it. And I was
Yeah.
like, she's definitely a manifesting generator.
Yes. Yeah. So I have like my whole chart done out. I can't ever remember. So I have to like refer back to all the things that she's shared with me. But that is another one that I will say that I will plug of like, I very much think that that was a very empowering and supportive labelage to give you permission to how you're showing up in life. So I'm not putting that in the Enneagram box, but I find so many people just find these labels and that's all they do with them. And I'm like, but how is that helping you? How is that serving you?
Right.
So yes, manifesting generator. I want to say I'm a 4/6, but maybe I'm not. I always get confused as to what everybody else is, but I can send you all my stuff if you'd like.
Yeah, I love it. I'm just getting into it because it's complex, but I never resonated with astrology, and I'm into all the weird stuff. No, I shouldn't say weird, but all the stuff. And astrology, I just couldn't get it. But then I found the human design, and I was like, oh,
and Gene Keys with it. Yes.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yes.
So I have a few years with the Gene Keys to still play, but it's really, it is fascinating. But yes, if you apply it into a tool, right? The irony is like, I don't, I teach like, don't put yourself in a box, but yet I'm putting people in a box, but for a bigger, greater purpose.
Yeah. I think it's one thing to help to like understand and gather data points. I feel like the way that I was introduced to it, it was almost like through a back door where I was asking about behaviors and things that intuitively I just did. And Jamie's like, oh, it's because you have a closed throat center, or like that, you have these connections with your spleen and like all this. And I was like, oh, wow. So it just gives you permission to keep being what you intuitively want and need to be and is authentically you, and you just have a little bit of a description as to why with it. So
yeah, definitely I love it.
All right. Oh, you're the best. And now I'm never going to hear
my generator
the
brother
end of it. Just
solid and just going.
This is actually great for for your one self and journey to your best self. It's like free advertising, because it wasn't even any recon we were doing. Tara just felt the vibes, and she's like, "Yeah, manifest generator. I just know it, Amanda."
Yeah.
And sure enough, she was right. Just two quick ones from me. You had mentioned a couple times about having a mentor at different stages of your journey. Can you speak about the importance of having a mentor? Even if people out there listening, watching, think they have it all figured out, how important it is to have a mentor to continue on, and how do you find and connect with the right one for you?
Yeah. So if you don't have a mentor, or excuse me, not if you don't have a mentor, if you don't feel that you need a mentor, feel like you have it all figured out, please give me a call. I would love to partner with you to bottle that up, sell that in mass and for us to just ride off in the sunset together. That would be great. That'd be great. Anyways, so mentors. It has an interesting connotation. I started to say it because I've just been in circles with her for so long. It's not what you would traditionally think is like sensei, like you're the only person that I listen to. You know, she has been a pivotal part, not Perry, I'll just say her name. She is the founder, CEO, whatever, of Training Camp for the Soul. And so she is one of my mentors. I've had others along the way that are, you know, in the like sexuality and femininity space and in the business space. And it's fun because like you don't have to have one mentor, right? You get to have like multiple mentors in different genres of your life. And, you know, I have this distinct way about me that if I want something or I need something, I just keep sticking around. And you can't really get rid of me until I get what I need. Not what I want necessarily, but what I, you know, until I feel complete in what I am searching for. And so it's really just one of those things where sometimes it's easy as just like pulling up a chair at the table and just hanging out and just listening. And I mean like a proverbial table and chair. So really just always being curious and open to women, men, whoever it is, couples, people that have what you want, allowing yourself to become part of their circle or to request access to their circle and just to notice what they have and to do what they do or learn how they learned. And I think that's really for a lot of people, the hardest thing is the vulnerability and rawness of like, I'm stuck in this and I need this. So like I talked about earlier, Amber Hawkins, like I emailed her when I had listened to and taken in a piece of her content. And I said, I'm just letting you know, I know that you're taking a break for, you know, personal reasons and do some winter healing and everything that she has going on. I'm so excited for her. But I'm going to be a future client of yours. I want you to know that. And I see you as a future mentor because of what you're bringing to the table. And she was like, I'm so honored. Like, I can't wait for that journey to unfold. I mean, again, I'm in the United States and she's in Australia. So we'll see how that unfolds. However, I really think it's trusting your intuition and trusting what you're drawn to and really just, again, getting up to the table and being like, yeah, I'm here. I'd love your help if you're open to it.
Awesome. Yeah, that's amazing. Something that comes up and I think is very important. Last thing, we do like to always get some actionable. I did say two, Tara. Don't roll your eyes. I did say two things. We like to get actionable, something that even the uninitiated can kind of utilize after listening to the podcast episode. And this is maybe a little bit outside of what we've spoken about, but I think critical in certain families. How do the men, the spouses, the partners, how can they support the wives when they're going through the process and they're trying to heal themselves and, you know, take care of the family and be the wives and the providers and the homemakers and everything that they have to do? What can men do? I will give them advice. Don't come home and say, "Are you rage cleaning?" Even though that's an amazing phrase that I just learned.
Yeah.
I will only say that internally when I see
Yeah.
and then I'll know I need to do something to help my wife because she's rage cleaning. So can you give us some advice for the guys out there so they can help? And, you know, that's going to help better their relationship with their wives and their families and, you know, just help that household get more balanced and aligned.
Yeah. Well, I would definitely say that if your wife's interested in something and you hop on a call with someone to ask questions, don't ask if what they're trying to sign up for is a cult. Because that is what my husband did.
A cult?
A cult, yeah.
Oh, that's
So
wonderful.
he is the most. I say this all the time. Whenever I get the chance, I tell this story because I think it's the most hilarious thing ever. So again, Western medicine, very like traditional CBT books. We'd done all of like the vanilla stuff, right? And so I come home and I'm really excited. And I've thought about this for a couple months. And I think we had transitioned, COVID had started to happen. And so Anat was switching everything over to virtual. And so, you know, I just felt really called to this is it. Like, not this is it, but like, this is what I'm feeling called to. This is my next step. And he was like, okay. And he has never been a no person. He has trusted me, which is what I'm getting to your actual question, Brian, is he has really always had this intuitive trust in my knowing and what I needed and what I was drawn to. And so he was like, okay, cool. I just feel like it is in to do my due diligence. I want to meet this person. It was her co-facilitator at the time, and get on a call and just ask some questions and just hear what they have to say of what you guys will be doing. And I kid you not, we're just on this call and he's like, so I hear everything you're saying. And just, I just need to know how this is not a cult. And I was just like, David, they're not going to let me in now. And it's going to be all your fault. And it's, so the answer to the question is have enough concern, but trust for your partner and their needs and what they're telling you to be able to help get them what they're asking for. And so it may be just like, I need help with the dishes every night from now on because I just can't do it all. Or it may be, I know we have the resources. I really need, somebody to pick the kids up from school and to do 2 hours in the evening. Or I want to do this transformational healing program and I'm about to go 7 days in California and I don't know when I'm coming back or not when I'm coming back, but how I will come back and how this will be. And so whatever it is, I really think that a lot of women, we have been taught to not trust ourselves and we have been taught to resource our intuition and what we should do and what's right to authority figures and just people outside of us. It doesn't even have to be authority figures, really. Just what is the masses doing? And so really, bar none, I think that the most impactful thing is when you feel something that your wife feels sure about, and that may catch you off guard, is just to trust that. Like notice what's coming up in your own system, notice the stories, notice the discomfort, maybe even go so far as to name them, but also just trust that whatever your wife, your partner is wanting to do, that means something to them and that it's coming up for them for a reason. And so apart from the fourth podcast that we would start on how men can support women, that is what I would start out with.
Yeah. And to add to that, even if she can't quite articulate it in the logical way that the man's brain might be thinking, like, well, how is this not a cult? He probably wasn't trying to be like a smart ass, or maybe he was, I don't know. But he probably was actually like, okay, this, I want an answer to this. Right. Yeah. So I would say, being overly feminine, I can't always articulate it. I just feel it. And I will even say, I can't articulate this right now, but I need you to attempt to understand a little bit more from where I might be coming from. So thank you. That was wonderful. Wonderful. So helpful for a lot of people. It will be.
Awesome.
All right. So for the listeners and viewers that would like to join a cult, how can they find out more about that? How can
the curry cult?
Are we going to create a new podcast, The Cult of Personality?
Yes. Oh, wow. That.
Where can they find out more about you online? Can you give us a little preview of what they'll expect when they get there?
Yeah. So really, I have tried to keep things simple. I have, again, trusted my intuition. This is the first thing in my life that I've never pushed on. And so I do not have a fancy website. I typically just hang out on Instagram. I put all of my creative efforts and work and passion into my Instagram page, the Somatic DPT being my credentials for physical therapy. That's D as in David, P as in Paul, T as in Tom. And so I'm very active in the DMs there. It has links all over the place for my link tree and where to find my bundled breathwork recordings and when I'm, one-on-one spots are available and all of that. That's really the biggest space that I would look into. And I mean, obviously, if you're a woman and especially if you're a mom, you will probably resonate with everything that I'm putting out. But even if you are a dad or just a guy that's like wanting to do some deeper inner healing, inner child work, there is plenty of things on there for you. And I am always open. I usually, even though I niche down to overwhelmed moms, I very much always have at least one man on my roster that I'm supporting, which I absolutely love.
Excellent. Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you so much, Amanda. I know this is the first of many conversations. So looking forward to that.
Yeah. It was awesome to be on here. Y'all are great.
Thanks so much.
Even you, generator.
Yeah.
Even you, generator. I thought you were going to say that you're a projector, and then I was going to be like, ooh, the token human design. Or those are reflectors, aren't they?
I thought I was a reflector for a long time because I was like so like sensitive to anything, but I can't imagine how they must do. They're the
No.
ones that have all the open centers, I believe.
Yes. 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 I
1%
think I
of
know.
the
I think I know
population.
one of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wild.
So.
But yeah, no, this was great. Thank you for having me.
Yep.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Journey to Your Best Self podcast. We appreciate you being part of this community. For more resources, insights, and ways to connect, head over to youroneself.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and Overcast. Your support means the world to us. Until next time, keep aligning your mind, body, and spirit, and peace, love, and self-discovery.